Yeah.
Looks
I
like
think
it.
Thanksgiving break is early this year. Maybe someone will show up late, but we'll see. I kind of doubt it. What,
Everybody's usually on time. So.
yeah. Were you on 8.6 or?
Yeah. Yeah, it started with number 3 and it really went downhill from there.
Yeah.
So.
It's a proof problem.
It's just a proof.
Okay, cool.
But I feel like I at least like could put something down on paper.
Right.
Like I wasn't being totally stuck. I feel like
Of like, it's just unnatural to write like this.
Yeah.
So I mean, even though I've been doing this for now like 8 years, like I still, if it.
unnecessarily complicated.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think I have an issue.
Cool, good.
It's with the proofs though that it seems that to the back of the book and I was like, don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
But
Okay, yeah. Let's see. Do you?
but then I think I ran into a problem.
So let's just read it in plain English.
Yeah.
The conclusion says there is at least one X, such that X has relationship C. So one says there is something that's an A, and for anything Y, if Y is B, then Y has or X has relationship C to Y. Now Y can be anything. So distant X, we'll just have to pick an arbitrary name for that, but that'll start getting us there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 2 says then there exists an X. So if we do something to instantiate the universal part of 1, and then use that with 2, we should be good. But how are we going to do that? So you were saying you're going to maybe instantiate the existential? Yeah.
But I couldn't figure out how to do it to where I could actually get the first part. That was my problem.
Yeah. To the existential, you're not going to be able to assume that you're probably going to have to use a conditional or indirect proof somewhere. X is A. Is 2 100% written down right? Because, yeah, 2 might have said, if there exists an X as A, then you get B.
I know, that would have made like, wait, actually, no, I'm stupid.
Okay, so now that makes it a
Now
lot
I
more
understand
clear.
how to do it. Okay.
Right.
That was my problem because I could get A.
They're good. Cool.
Alright. Now I understand what's going on.
Yeah. It's good. Cool. So yeah, you're just simplifying out from 1. Beautiful. Yeah, good, that's perfect, yeah. One little sliver. So
Problems. Okay. Yeah. On 5.
okay, cool. So let's start by reading. What's that conclusion say in English?
There.
What is that? That's kind of hard to understand what that might mean. But what it mean? Do you have any idea what it means?
On
Like-
the condition that there's a y for all x.
It's not even on the condition that
Okay.
there's y. It's there is something that exists.
Yeah.
So that for anything else, if something is a, if anything is a, then what that something y that we know exists
Yeah.
will be b. So
Okay.
it's kind of complicated,
Yeah.
but it would be something like, oh god, I don't even know what we give as an example. Can't even think of one. There exists something that for it would be like there exists a cat, or there exists something that if oh man, there exists something y such that for any x, if x is oh man, if that was relational, it'd be easier. If x is the offspring of y, let's just say that a was x, a, y. If x is the offspring of y, then y is a parent.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like
Okay.
there is some y such that if it had offspring, then it would be a parent. Yeah. Okay, anyway. So yeah, so we're going to have to figure out how to get that.
I think this is where I start to get confused on the rules
Mhm.
of, because I don't think the book explained it great. I was reading really carefully and I was like, I don't really
Yeah.
understand it, but I feel like it's gonna have to be like a conditional or an indirect because it's weird.
Yeah, you could do it conditional, it looks like. We could also do it indirect. Since we only have one premise to work with, you could either assume something about the premise and do most ponens or most tollens,
Mhm.
like the antecedent or consequent. Or you could go with the indirect proof and negate the end and then start to mess around with change a quantifier, instantiate things, and see where that leads you. Do you have a preference?
Oh wait. No. I was looking at the.
Let's try it first has an indirect proof. So we'll assume the negation of the entire conclusion. Good. Okay, cool. Yeah. Then do some quantifier negation rules.
Right?
Yes, yeah, perfect. Oh, wait. No, missing one negation.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
right there.
Okay, there we
Yeah.
go. Okay. Nope, I'm not happy with that.
Yeah, I'd suggest doing something else before you do that step.
Okay. Is that sticking to the negation?
I would try doing De Morgan's on 5.
Do the De Morgan's first.
Yeah, because that's totally valid. You
Okay.
could totally do that. Yeah.
So then, when you instantiate this, do I have to do Y first?
Yeah, you
First,
typically
okay.
go from left to right, and
Okay.
it helps you avoid some mistakes. You don't actually have to,
Okay.
but it
just
helps
makes
you.
it easier.
Yeah, it's kind of like the existential instantiation. Yeah. Good. Good. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes, good.
Yep. Okay.
So why does 13 work? Take me through how you got 13, because you're right, but explain how you got 13.
Because you just instantiate with like a hypothetical over here, like
Right.
I'm not instantiating like an M
Yeah.
or anything like that. Because otherwise you'd have to do another existential.
Good.
Because it would be a specific.
Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
from 6, you did a universal instantiation, but you
Yeah.
kept it hypothetical general,
Yeah.
just Y, just so we could use the rules, and you got 8.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, you
Yeah,
got
I
7.
Yeah.
So now, then when you instantiate again, then you are able to simplify that on 10. That Y just came from a universal generalization, right? Or instantiation. So then you can help yourself with the generalizing back out. Yeah. Good. That's great. Okay, cool. So, let's see, 12. That's actually good. Yeah, that works. That's perfect. Now, there's one more way you could have done that that would have saved you a couple steps.
Okay.
What could you have done from 13 to save you some steps?
Could you just negate fire?
Yeah, you just need to change the qualifier rule.
Okay, I
So
wasn't
you'd just
sure
be,
if you
yeah.
could do that or not.
There does not exist an y such that y is b, which would just be 12 and 13 would contradict,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I didn't know if you could do that or not, because you're just basically saying there exists a y, but there doesn't exist a y, right? Or
Right,
there exists
yeah.
y and there doesn't exist a y.
So 13 says for anything that exists, y. So
Yeah.
for anything, it's not b.
Uh-huh.
Well, if everything and anything is not b, that means there's nothing that is b.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what the change of
Okay.
qualifier would do. Yeah. But either way, like, totally correct. Good job.
Why did that give me such, I don't know why that gave me such a hard time.
They stress you out and kind of get, like,
you know, you see all the variables and everything, and it's like,
right.
my brain just doesn't know.
No, I completely get it.
Alright, well, those were 2 easy fixes.
Yeah. You want to do some more?
Sure. Can't hurt to practice, right?
Yeah.
The internet is slow, so I'm just going to assume I wrote it down right.
Yeah. All right. Does that look good?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's start again by reading that conclusion.
It just says there exists an x such that cx.
Good, yeah. Okay, so now how are we going to get, let's like try to make a game plan, how we're going to roughly think we get there, right?
Okay. It feels like it would be easy to do an indirect proof because that's not complicated, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
it might be.
Yeah, I mean, that might work, yeah.
Might
Try
work,
an
okay.
indirect if you want. And just to clarify, so you're not wrong in writing like how we've been writing for, where once you do a change of quantifier, you do like x and then negation parentheses cx.
Mm-hmm.
The parentheses still is just applying to the c, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just saying it's not the case that x
Yeah.
has c. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Yes. Can I put this as there exists a y?
Can you put
Can I do that?
Yeah. Can you do an existential generalization from that?
Because I got it from x.
Right. But we're assuming that things exist in our universe of discourse.
Okay.
Something exists.
Mm-hmm.
Then whenever you have a universal, it's saying, well, anything that exists
Okay.
is some property x or something, right?
Uh-huh.
And then I instantiate an x such that x has property b. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes. So even though I use there exists an x to get
Mm-hmm.
down here, I can still say there exists a y such that by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, okay, imagine I'm telling you, I'm going to go back to the cat thing again. I say, look, for any assuming that there are some cats. So, or there's some things. So, let's just say I assume there's some cats. And then I tell you, well, anything that's a cat, you instantiate that with MABM, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm sorry, yeah, BM.
Yeah.
Even though that the M is a particular object you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
you're assuming that this, and then all you have to do then is once you get that BM, you're saying, well, yeah, this thing M has property B, which just means there is something with property B.
Okay. So is the issue that I'm having that this is just saying something exists?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that it's x or y or whatever. It's just that something exists.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Just two things, so you can say like this is y.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's the problem. Okay.
Like just a space.
Okay.
There exists something that goes here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so X, Y, and Z are just empty spaces that you fill in the blank.
Okay.
Let me check this. So 9, 10, most bones, good.
I don't think the book explains that very well.
No,
It
and
calls stuff like empty and stuff like that. And I was
Right.
like, what is that?
So when it talks about being empty, it's talking about the universe of discourse. Again, I could write as a big. I can't really draw it, but it's like the German U or whatever.
Okay.
And then the universe of discourse is a set of all objects that we're talking about. So it would be like, let's just say I have Pierce, I have Holly, which is my dog. I have Caden, which is my cat, or the other dog. I don't know, I'm calling it cat. Right? Let's just say that's the universe of discourse. Those are actual objects.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think of these as names. These are objects.
Yeah.
And then we assume there's always some background context that we're talking about when we're doing this. Whenever we say something like M, little m, we're assigning one of these objects a name.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that does. So when it talks about, like, let's say X, Y, Z being pure variables,
Mm-hmm.
what that means is they stand for anything in here.
Mm-hmm.
And in a sense, they're empty because they don't really stand for anything. That's one of the ways you could talk about emptiness. But yeah, it's complicated. There's like,
I kind of get that now.
yeah, there's a whole conceptual system underlying this book that the book doesn't really teach you, that I learned in graduate. It's like extremely complicated. There's just almost no point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do one more.
Yeah, let's do one more. Maybe we can do as many as you want. I don't care.
Do all the ones I don't know how to do.
Yeah. No, you're doing great. This is good. This is good.
All right, maybe I'll be able to do this one now. This is the one I got confused on. So, the book doesn't condition.
So, just a quick note. If you look at one, what are the sides of one? Like left and right side?
This is all.
Yeah.
And then this is all.
Okay. So, just to be super clear, the variable, or the quantifiers don't apply
Yeah.
to, right. They don't range over the whole. Pretty much, I don't say everything. I'm sure there is a way, but everything you could do with conditional, you could do with indirect.
Okay.
So it might just be a little bit more complicated, but whichever you want to try.
Because they seem to stack, so I could.
Yeah. It's hard because you have to guess exactly the right thing.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to be there forever.
It's
Yeah.
a guess right before you even start. I mean, do you think that's the best way to do it?
With conditional or
Yeah.
indirect? I don't know. I mean, let's try indirect. Let's just see.
Indirect?
Yeah, I've always been more of an indirect type of person. Because then we could do the quantifier negation stuff and see what we get. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Good.
I remembered it that time.
Beautiful. Nice. Exist next. Okay, yeah, and then good. Good. Okay, so right now in 7, what's that say? What do we know, given our assumption at least?
There exists an X where for all Y, X is C, and it's not the case. It's not the case that X has the relation A to Y.
Yeah, good,
Okay.
good. And then so we know that there is an X that has property C, right?
Mhm.
And we also know that X doesn't have that relationship to anything,
Mhm. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So we can work with that. How exactly do we want to instantiate these things and get going? Let's see what one says.
I think what was messing me up here was that it's AXY, but
Mhm.
then they switch it.
Right,
But if you
AYX.
instantiate it right, you can switch the order.
Exactly. Yeah, if you instantiate
Okay.
correctly, you can swap the order.
Okay.
Because, so let's say that you instantiate 7 for the existential.
Doesn't really matter, right? Or does it?
Yeah, you can pick, I think, yeah, because it's all general, you can pick any letter that you
Okay.
want. Yeah.
I think I was confused again because they use a universal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to. Because you have to go back out again, right?
Right.
Okay.
You have to go back out, but not in the same order that you're in right
But
now.
not- okay.
So yeah, so this might get tricky.
Okay.
I have a hypothesis of what might work.
Okay.
So we'll instantiate that with pick whatever letter you want. Good. Okay. So now, I don't know if this will work. We'll see.
Okay.
That 8 is universal, right?
Which one?
The quantifier on 8.
Yeah, it's universal.
So couldn't you just make that M?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if this will work again, but I'm not sure why I'm having this idea. So what's that say on 9?
M is C, and it's not the case that M has a relationship A to M.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
M doesn't have that relationship to itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, but I mean, I don't have the relationship to myself of being my own mom or something, so
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay, so now we've got that, and that's perfectly like fine to do. Where could that get us? I'm not exactly sure.
No, wait, no.
I'm not sure if that's actually helpful. I just
Oh, wait. I think I see it. Because if you simplify it, then you have to change it out to. I'll try it. and
Yeah.
see. get messed up when you add the quantifiers.
Yeah.
So I have to do y first, right?
Yeah, it's going to be
Okay.
purely existential now that you've
Yeah.
given it concrete letters, yeah.
So I can do. Right?
Yeah, that looks right, yeah.
Okay. And then.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be. He's messed me up.
Yeah.
Switching.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Good. Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, I think I was wrong. You have to do not X, right?
It'd be not X,
Yeah.
Y, be X, Y. Or I'm sorry, not X, Y, A, Y, X.
Would be.
Well, you're trying to set up for a disjunctive syllogism on 1, right? Because
Yeah.
if we could deny one side of that, would be helpful. Does that allow us to deny one side of it, though? There exists an X such
No.
a for any Y, Y is AX.
Because you'd have to have 9.
Right.
I get so confused with these. Because this is just saying this, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay.
It's the same thing. Well, so if there's a negation on both sides of it, it would be saying that.
Oh,
Yes.
that's where I get. Okay. And that's why you end up with a negative when it flips.
Exactly. Yeah.
No. Okay.
So yeah, it would be not X. So it would be not X, Y, A, Y, X.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that help us? I don't know.
I don't think so. Unless you could. No. I mean, because then you could instantiate that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's going to be helpful either.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think my suggestion of doing M and M solved it. We do have CM, but 2 says we'll never be able to instantiate that, will we?
Oh, yeah, because we've already done.
So, yeah, I think we're gonna have to make an assumption somewhere.
Okay.
We could continue doing indirect and make an assumption that might help us get a contradiction, or we could just start over and try to find something to assume. It's up to you.
I wonder if we should just start over.
Sure. Yeah.
It might get really
Yeah, that's fine by me.
jumbled.
Sometimes it's easier to just go back to the drawing board. Okay, so for any x that exists a y, such that if x is c, so for anything if it's c, then it has relationship a to some y that exists. One says exists an x such that for any y, anything has relationship A to this X that exists, or anything has relationship B to anything else. So everything is related to everything with that relation B. So if I assume Remember that you could assume a negation of something as well.
Oh.
So, what if I assumed a negation? I don't know. I was thinking maybe we could assume a negation of the second disjunct on 1.
Yeah.
And then that would, if you did change a quantifier, it'd eventually get you to there what would it be? There exists an X, there doesn't exist an X, and then you change that one so it'd be, oh man, I can't see it.
Yeah.
We could do that, yeah. Let's go with that and see how it works out. Are they assuming that as a universal assumption?
I think that they do. Which confused me to begin with, but then I think that they go back out after they finish the conditional. But I was like, we're already in territory I'm not good with.
So let's assume a quantifier there with it, then a universal quantifier, just to see what happens.
Can you do that?
Yeah, you can assume anything you want. Yeah, any well-formed formula. Yeah, and then let's see what that gets us. So 2 says there exists an X such that for any Y, anything being C would make it so that that X exists, doesn't have relationship B to Y. Okay, yeah. So if we were to instantiate 2 first.
Yeah. You can just do Y, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. Good.
No, okay. Let me use X.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good thinking. Yeah, because you could just generalize it however you want. So your quantifier now needs to be X too, yeah.
Does the order matter when it comes to the quantifiers?
No, not when it's matching kinds, they don't, because it just reads
Okay.
and. Yeah,
'Cause
so.
if it's not matching, then it matters.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, then that would be M, right? Good.
Yeah. Okay. Are we gonna run into the same?
We might. So we've got for any X, it's not the case that X has relationship B to M.
Could we do an existential
Like a generalization?
generalization?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay. Should I do it down here too?
Sure. Oh wait, okay.
Yeah. So I was thinking if no, that doesn't work, does it?
Leave it universal for a second, and let's. So if I'm gonna get, let's say I'm trying to deny the right side of 1. That says for any 2 things.
Yeah.
Every 2 things have to be related by B.
Yeah.
Well, but we have something on 7. or 8, we know that for any x doesn't have that relationship to m.
Yeah.
So that does contradict the right side of 1, right?
Yes.
So how do we get it into the form, though, to contradict the right side of 1? That's going to be the tricky part.
I think my issue is why. I don't know. Wait.
So what would happen if we did an existential generalization on that from that m on 8?
From the m first? Or going to 9? Sorry.
Going to 9,
okay.
yeah.
Then you have to put it in front of the x, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, would you?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm getting.
Vis-a-vis, there exists a y. Yeah, that's right.
I think
And it'd be not bmy.
it's there in the other order.
Right.
Here. I think I was thinking if you did an existential, then when it negates, you get the negated.
Try that, yeah.
Side.
Let's try that. Good. Good. So now that is a contradiction with the right-hand side 1, right? And it's kind of hard to see because that negation's just like, it's not negating the entire thing, it looks like.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Because it just has to be in front, right?
Yeah, it just has to be in front. Because, one, the right-hand side says, any two things, x and y, have relationship b to each other. 11 says, it's not the case that for any x, it has relationship b to y.
Yeah.
So it is a contradiction.
So it's still,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. No, you can't go out of the thing yet, can you? Out of the conditional.
So if you did, you would have, for any x,
Yeah.
if x is c, then
It would
12 follows, yeah.
Okay. So. So, which one should we do? Do another end so that you can switch these again?
So if I was going to work backwards, if I had for any x is c implies that for any x there exists a y such that cx, or I'm sorry, what am I doing? For any, there exists an x such that y such that ayx, if I had that, that is if I stop the conditional proof here, and I start to instantiate, if I start to instantiate this, instantiating and just keeping it general still, right? Because
yes.
even though I'm using a x instead of a y, it's still just general.
Yeah, I think that.
So then I instantiate this, and I make that an x as well. And then now I'm going to, well, I guess it doesn't matter which I do first. Can't remember the order. Is the order you always do existential first, then universal? I thought there was a trick to that. I don't think there is. If I want to then instantiate this out or generalize this out, right, I got that, and then I would just need, but that would change the order. So I would do the existential first. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I would do the universal.
So you can instantiate like that?
Mm-hmm.
Like with the, even though it's one line?
What do you mean?
Even though like this is one piece, you can still instantiate.
Mm-hmm. Now, because you're not actually saying there exists anything like this one, because it's just purely hypothetical, you know, it's an if-then.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean that works.
That works, okay. Alright.
Yeah.
So you would stop it.
So yeah, I think you could do it by stopping it at 12.
Okay.
You could also work further and do it another, like unpack this first, then stop later.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you'd unpack this with somehow within this, and then you'd get something like AXM. Then you'd stop there,
Okay.
but this is the way I would see clearly. So let's try to repeat that real quick here and go step by step. So I wasn't calling my justifications.
Go out, right?
Good. Close your Existential Proof, and that's what you got. Pulling up my book just to make sure I'm telling everybody the right thing. Because you're going Existential Instantiation, so from left to right, and go there, and then you come back out. The book does, and there's no, again, like there are logical relationships that there exists a y and such that for any x dy, right? And we start instantiating.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do an existential instantiation, I go from left to right.
Yeah.
And I'm left with this. Let's just say M, like we've been doing. And then I do a universal instantiation, and I now keep it x.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I'm generalizing back out, the book just has the habit of whatever you do first is on the inside. So let's say I now do my existential generalization back out.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll be left with, there exists, what was it originally, a y, such that
Okay.
So that's now a existential generalization. And then now I do my x, and that was universal, and I'll put the x back out here. So it's kind of like, think of it like left to right.
Yeah.
And then when you unpack it, you're like, oh, I take this out, put it here, then I take. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Now, like, of course, like, this is right. It's not wrong. It's just that, like, to follow that exact pattern,
yeah,
you'll have to just remember to the order when you're instantiating left to right, when you're generalizing right to left.
Okay.
And now these aren't the same thing at all.
No. Yeah.
Right? Like, they just don't mean the same thing. This one says there exists a y such that for any x. So there is something so where that thing, anything that exists is related to that thing with D.
Yeah.
This says for anything x, x has a relationship D to some, at least one thing y.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they are slightly different. But yeah, that's the process. So instantiating left to right, generalizing, whatever you do first will be on the left or right to left. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. And you don't have to, I'm not saying you have to instantiate like this first.
Yeah, just if you're going to do it first, it goes on the inside.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, whatever you do first is on the right.
Yeah.
1, 3, 4.
Yeah.
We're out of time. Well, thanks for showing up to class.
Thank you for helping me.
Yeah. Good job.
Didn't expect to be the only person here.
Yeah. I think everybody's ready for Thanksgiving break.
Yeah, no, so am I.
Yeah. I'm dreading it because I have to do, that's like going to be the grading catch up.
Yeah.